But I think all of us are, if I can speak for my fellow Angelinos, a little bit baffled by the extremity of this reaction, given that we do this all the time. I mean, again, there are protests all the time. It seems bizarre to me, actually.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think at some level or maybe the entire level, a lot of this is just political theater. And recently I was reading Tim Miller's book Why We Did It, and Tim Miller was a former Republican operative
Mm.
dating back to the George W. Bush days.
Bulwark guy, right?
Say it again.
A bulwark guy.
Yeah, yeah. And he was saying that he explained how over the last few decades they would purposely play up fear mongering around a range of issues, including immigration, to really get people to support policies they otherwise wouldn't support. And he said what they didn't anticipate was eventually you'd condition voters to legitimize those fears and want a politician who delivers on them. In walks Donald Trump, and I think that explains a lot of the political theater here because we see like yes, there are some acts of violence. We saw the Waymo cars on fire, and we saw closing of the freeways, disruptions, but the media tends to cover those are more sensational. They get more eyeballs than people standing there peaceful chanting for peace or human rights. And like also the Mexican flag, right? I know that one really gets under the skin of a lot of Americans to see that Mexican flag waving. Ironically, they weren't as concerned when there was an Israeli or Ukrainian flag over the last 5 years waving. But that kind of political theater, I think, conditions a lot of audiences to have a different interpretation of Los Angeles. And that's why I wanted to have you on here. But I think another component of that, and tell me what you think, the Trump administration promised to deport 12 million people who were supposedly undocumented. I think we all knew that was, a near impossibility. The people they have deported so far includes people who have a legal right to be here and U.S. citizens, but without due process, these folks can't prove they have a legal right to be here. That's what's really frustrating so many people about this process. So in response, now as the public is realizing they're not going to deliver on that 12 million goal, they're trying to increase these arrests on any and everyone to get the perception of progress, even though there's no real deliverable. Is that kind of what your take is, as someone who monitors kind of politics and what's going on the ground in Los Angeles?
I have kind of a couple of responses to that. I mean, per your point about the flags, I think, I mean, first of all, I could not give a shit about the flags. But I do think that that is kind of what I mean about LA being an immigrant city is that these are sort of very normal things to see. You see Mexican flags at Dodgers events when the Lakers win the World Championship and thousands of people gather downtown. There are Mexican flags. There are Iranian flags. There are all kinds of flags, Salvadoran flags, Honduran flags. We embrace diaspora. This is a diasporic city. We recognize that people can hold multiple identities. It also was Mexico. Let's keep that in mind, right? Our city's flag is orange, green, and yellow and bears the remnants of our ties to Mexico historically. We feel very close. I talk about LA as a borderland, even though we're not quite technically in the border zone. So I don't think folks here are bothered by that by any way, shape, or form. And I take your point about flags of other nations that we're sort of embracing. Um, what I do want to say, and I know we talked about this last time I was on your podcast, is the connection here between labor rights and immigrant rights. So I mentioned garment workers. A few years back, 2021, helped to pass SB 62, which is the strongest protections for garment workers and their rights in the country. It should be a national standard. If you want interested, the Fabric Act is in Congress right now. They haven't moved on it. They're trying to make it a national standard. It did things like abolish the piece rate, which is one of the reasons that garment workers are susceptible to wage theft. You're paid by the piece, not by the hour. It's supposed to add up, and it very rarely does. It established joint liability for garment manufacturers so that in their supply chain, if there's bad actions in their supply chain, they can be held accountable. It is not surprising then that they choose to target a garment shop because when you have a largely undocumented workforce, that is a chilling effect. People are not going to pursue their rights under SB 62. Similarly, car wash workers in Los Angeles have their own worker center. It's called the Clean Car Wash. They've launched a massive campaign. They run a cooperative, a worker-owned cooperative. So they go after car wash workers. We are one of many cities that has the presence of day labor networks in the city. Endelon, my dear friend Chris Newman, who's actually been helping support the Abrego Garcia case. Um, Endelon is wonderful and empowers folks looking for work on the corner to know their rights to negotiate employment. So you target folks working on the corner, right? All of this is about forcing people back into the shadows. That 12 million number you reference will be impossible in terms of the current state of the immigration deportation infrastructure. Geo Group is chomping at the bit to expand that out. Every one of the people that these private detention facilities house, they charge a fee as though they were staying in a hotel. It used to be $200. I don't know that that's still true. Don't fact check me, but they are taking profit from every day that someone is needlessly thrown into a detention center, citizens thrown into a detention center. Every day of that inconvenience, GEO Group profits. So to me, this kind of behavior is not actually intended to achieve those numbers. It's intended to scare people, to force them into the shadows. And you can feel this in our communities in Los Angeles right now. We're a city that has street vendors everywhere, in some informal street markets where street vendors tend to congregate. None of those folks are on the street. That guy you see on your corner who sells fruit and juice on the weekends, they're inside. They're hidden right now. I ride the bus every day to work, often with a lot of domestic workers who are coming from communities in South and East LA to work in the affluent neighborhoods of West Side. The bus was half full today because people are too afraid to go to work. So one thing I've been calling on my friends and neighbors to do, us white folks who are citizens who have this kind of protection, is to protect those people in their lives. Don't make your laundry guy or your yard guy come this week, but pay him anyway. Don't make your domestic worker come to your house this week, but pay her anyway, right? These are the things that we can do to let people seek the safety and shelter that they want to. And of course, if you have the means to, please contribute to these organizations and their legal support funds. The Garment Workers Center is running a fundraiser for the 14 garment workers that were detained. Clean Car Wash is running a fundraiser for those folks. This kind of infrastructure is here in Los Angeles. And so, of course, they're attacking us. What I am also concerned about, and a lot of us are mindful of, is the fact that we have this robust infrastructure here. They don't in the Central Valley. They don't in further flung communities. They don't necessarily have that kind of mutual aid and support. And those are the folks that are being disappeared without a hint, without a noise, right? It's really important that we get loud and we try to stand in the way of these things as best we can, slow them down, if nothing else, so that their families know where they are. No one knows where a lot of these people are. They've kidnapped 145 people by best estimates. Some of them have been already deported. Some of them we don't know where they are. That is shocking to the soul. And I do hope, I guess I'll say, that even Americans who voted for this proudly. I mean, we do see these headlines periodically of like, I voted for Trump, but not for him to deport my friend Mary from my small town. I can only hope that this kind of overreach will backfire for this administration. My concern is that thousands of people are going to be hurt before that reaction kicks in. There is so much damage to be done, and it's moving so quickly. And I'm glad to see articles like, that woman who worked at, I think it was a Waffle House,
Mm-hmm.
and her community was like, how dare you? She's out. Great. That community will probably be forever changed in terms of how they talk about this stuff. But for that to happen in communities across the country, that means thousands and thousands of people have to be hurt. And so I think what you're seeing is Los Angeles's sense of leadership, that we have this power here that we've built together. We have an incredibly robust labor movement. LA is a union town, which is a crazy thing to say as a labor historian, given its history. We have a robust mutual aid network. We have a robust worker center network. All of these resources make us well equipped to stand up and fight back right now. And it's really, really heartening to see the way that activism is spreading into other cities right now. I'm sorry to say that those cities are now also getting National Guard sent their direction. That was not the goal, but if not now, when?
Hey Detoxers! Thanks for tuning in. You can find Disinfo Detox on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. Every click helps grow the community and keeps those tech overlords happy. Detox complete.